Ever notice how some people, some leaders, just have this magnetic pull?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
It's like they tap into something deeper,
Yeah.
something more than just like authority,
Yeah.
you know?
It's not about the title.
Exactly.
It's something else. And that's what we're going to dig into today with Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Ooh, this one's a classic. Love this book.
Such a good one. It really makes you rethink like what it really means to lead,
It's not about holding a position, right?
right?
It's about inspiring people to follow you willingly and often, passionately. Like think about Martin Luther King Jr., right? Or the Wright brothers.
Totally. They weren't CEOs or politicians, but they had this incredible vision
They had that spark.
that just ignited something in others.
And that's what Sinek nails in this book.
Uh-huh.
He says it all boils down to this thing he calls the WHY.
Yeah, the WHY. It's like the core belief, the driving force behind everything you do.
So it's not enough to just be good at what you do or even to know how to do it well.
And it goes deeper than that.
You have to know why you're doing it in the first place.
Exactly.
And that's something we see over and over again with these like iconic figures, right? Like Steve Jobs, for example.
Oh, absolutely. He wasn't just selling computers. He was selling a vision. He was challenging the status quo, and people were drawn to that.
They were buying into the WHY.
Exactly. And Sinek argues that this isn't just some fluffy motivational stuff.
Right.
It's actually rooted in, get this, biology.
Whoa. Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Our brains, right, they aren't these purely rational machines. The limbic system, which is the part that controls emotions, decision-making, all that good stuff,
Yeah.
that plays a huge role in how we choose who to trust, who to follow, even what we buy.
So our decisions are way more emotional than we realize.
Way more.
Fascinating. So how does this YHY thing actually play out in the real world? Like, how does it explain why some companies and leaders have this almost like cult-like following?
Okay, so Sinek has this framework he calls the golden circle, and it explains how most companies communicate from the outside in.
Outside in.
So they start with what they do.
Okay, so like, we make computers.
Exactly. Then maybe they'll talk about how they do it, like their process or whatever. But very few actually communicate their WHY
The why, yeah.
for purpose.
Like the deeper meaning.
Yes. And that's where the truly inspiring ones, they flip the script. They start with their WHY, and then the what and the how, those just become proof points.
Okay, so instead of leading with features and benefits, you lead with the belief system behind those features.
Exactly.
Like Apple doesn't just sell computers, they sell a vision of challenging the status quo. And that's what gets people lining up for hours.
Exactly.
Because they're not just buying a product, they're buying into that belief.
Yes, and it becomes about connecting with their values, their aspirations. Think about Harley Davidson.
Oh man, people get that logo tattooed on themselves.
Right. It's more than just a motorcycle. It's a whole identity.
The lifestyle.
Exactly.
So how do companies actually do this?
yeah, how do they find their WHY?
And more importantly, how do they communicate it in a way that actually resonates?
Oh, that's where it gets really interesting. Sinek says that companies who really nail this, they don't just build products and services, they build megaphones.
Megaphones. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so think about it. A megaphone amplifies your voice, right? It lets you reach a larger audience. And that's what great leaders and companies do with their WHY.
So it's not enough to just like slap your mission statement on a wall and call it a day.
No, it has to be woven into everything you do. The company culture, the customer interactions, even the way you design your products. Southwest Airlines is a great example of this. They're known for their low fares, sure, it's deeper than that, right? Their WHY, it's about making air travel accessible for everyone.
It's like they're on a mission to democratize flying, you know?
Exactly, and that comes across in everything they do. Their whole vibe, the way they treat their employees, it all lines up.
They walk the walk for sure.
They do, and that's how you build trust, right?
Right.
Sinek says trust comes from alignment, like when your actions match your words.
It's that authenticity thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell when a company's being genuine versus just trying to sell you something.
Totally. And that's where things can get tricky, especially as companies grow. Sinek calls this the split. It's like when the WHY starts to fade into the background and the what and the how, those take center stage.
It's like they lose their way a little bit.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Think about Microsoft after Bill Gates left.
Gates, he was all about that original vision, right? Like a computer on every desk, empowering people through technology. But I don't know, somewhere along the line, it feels like that got lost.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, trying to hit those numbers, outsmart the competition, and suddenly you've lost sight of the bigger picture.
It's like they go from building a megaphone to just, like, another voice in the crowd.
Exactly. And then you become just another company trying to sell stuff, and that can be a slippery slope. It makes me think about that TiVo story that Sinek talks about.
Oh yeah, TiVo. They were revolutionary. I mean, they totally changed how we watch TV.
Game changers. But they made a big mistake.
What was that?
They led with the tech stuff, all those cool features, the specs, all what, no WHY.
They got so caught up in the how, they forgot to tell us why we should even care.
Exactly. It's like they forgot about the human element, the need to connect with something bigger. And that's the thing about the WHY. You can have the best product in the world, a noble mission even.
Yeah.
But if you don't communicate it in a way that truly resonates, it's like you're whispering into a void.
So how do we make sure we're building the right kind of megaphone? The kind that amplifies our WHY and attracts the right people. Sinek talks about this thing called the celery test, which I love.
Oh, the celery test. It's so simple, but so smart. It's like, imagine you're at the grocery store
Oh, okay.
and you're totally overwhelmed by all the choices.
Too many options.
Too many.
Yeah.
So you need a system. So let's say your goal is to only buy the healthiest foods. The celery test, that's your filter.
It helps you cut through the noise and make choices that align with your goals, your WHY.
Exactly. It's about staying true to what matters to you, even when there are temptations everywhere.
It's like that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yes. And that's why defining your WHY is so crucial, right? It's your compass, your North Star.
I love that. Your North Star.
It helps you make choices that aren't just about, like, quick wins, but about building something meaningful, something that lasts.
So if someone's listening right now thinking, okay, I need to find my WHY, where do they even start?
Sinek talks about this a lot. It takes some soul searching, you know? Ask yourself, what really lights you up? What are your core values, the things you absolutely won't compromise on? What kind of impact do you want to make on the world?
It's like digging deep down and figuring what makes you tick.
Yes, it might take time, but trust me, your WHY is in there somewhere. It's about tapping into that inner drive, that sense of purpose that fuels your passion, that makes you feel truly alive.
So much of this is about connecting with ourselves on a deeper level.
It is. And then, once you've found your WHY, don't keep it bottled up. Share it. Build that megaphone and amplify your message. You'll be amazed by who you attract.
It's like you're putting out a beacon, and the people who resonate with that same frequency, they'll find you.
100%. And that's how you build a team that's more than just like a bunch of individuals, you know? It becomes a movement. Think about the Wright brothers.
Oh yeah, good example.
They weren't the only ones trying to build a flying machine back then.
Definitely not.
But they were the ones who actually got it off the ground.
They were the ones who stuck with it.
Yeah. And a big part of that was their WHY, their unwavering belief in what they were doing. It's like Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And when you can get a whole team, a whole organization aligned behind that shared WHY.
That's where the magic happens. It's like that Langley guy, right? The one who was also trying to build an airplane at the same time.
Oh yeah, Langley. He had like way more funding, more resources, the whole 9 yards, but
But his heart wasn't really in it, was it?
it wasn't about the bigger purpose. It was his ego. He wanted the fame, the recognition.
And that kind of trickled down to his team too, right?
Exactly. It created this toxic environment where it was all about competition, personal gain. It wasn't sustainable. It's like this proves that having a shared WHY
It's more powerful than money.
more powerful than anything. It's what fuels you when things get tough, which they always do.
That's so true. This has been such a great conversation, by the way. I always love diving into Sinek's work. He just has a way of cutting through all the noise and getting to the heart of what really matters.
Me too. It's like a breath of fresh air, you know?
Yeah.
In a world that's obsessed with what and how W, he reminds us to never lose sight of the WHY.
Totally. It's like that part where he talks about his own struggles, how he lost sight of his WHY for a while and hit a wall. It's like even he, the guy who literally wrote the book on this stuff, needs those reminders sometimes.
We all do. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle, the pressure to achieve, that we forget to check in with ourselves, you know, make sure we're still on track.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from Simon Sinek's? Start with why.
Honestly, I want everyone listening to put down their phones, close their laptops for a minute, and just ask themselves, what's my WHY?
Ooh, that's a powerful question.
It is, because once you have that answer, it changes everything. It gives you that unshakable clarity to make decisions, to build relationships, to pursue your dreams, even when it's hard.
It's about aligning your actions with your values and creating a life that feels both meaningful and impactful.
Exactly. And who knows, you might just spark a movement of your own.
I love that.
Sure.
Well, that's a wrap on this deep dive into Start With Why. Such a powerful reminder that true leadership isn't about wielding authority. It's about igniting a fire in others. So go out there, find your WHY, build your megaphone, and let's change the world one inspired action at a time.